taking so long.
What?
To be loud.
Oh.
Be loud.
Now you can hear it, right?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I usually don't have any trouble being heard.
I love you.
Say what?
It's a really filthy
You
audience.
are nasty.
So, let's see here. I can't really see anybody, but does anyone have any questions? What's that? There's no one here.
No, you guys were the best audience. Gotta tell you, this was amazing. I'm impressed with Gordon.
When Mink and I were first talking about her coming here, she said, "Do I have to have Birkenstocks to come to Portland?" I said, "No, you can't."
But I did wear my negative heel shoes on the plane.
Jeffrey, let me just ask you. I mean, you went from Vito Russo, who was this incredible gay activist, historian, film scholar, AIDS activist, to Divine. I mean, what's that journey like to go so quickly to these two different kinds of characters?
Well, Vito was an activist and a gay activist, and I feel like Divine was an activist too, without even meaning to be an activist. He was not a political person. He wasn't. He didn't. I don't know if he even ever voted. Or.
He may not have.
Yeah, he may not have. But he, just by being who he was, that was a radical thing, and he made it okay for other people to be who they were. And everybody here tonight in this audience was probably touched by him in some way, And it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be free. He taught us that, and I got that from him when I was growing up, and I bet a lot of people here did too. Hissing is good, right?
Are there questions? Does anyone have questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes?
Does it really get better, or was it longer to be queer when you met Divine?
Well, I wasn't queer. I've never been queer. Sorry about that. Actually, that's not true. I did do my little bit of experimentation. Yes, I did have, with Griselda. But it gets better. Things do get better. Was that even remotely with the answer you were looking for?
No, probably not.
What's it like being the filthiest person in the world?
Alive. I am now the filthiest person alive by default.
Yeah.
Although, if you really look at it, in the movie, I should have been, because Connie Markle had absolutely not one redeeming feature. And Divine did. Babs Johnson was a nice person, took care of her mother, kept her family together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, in making a movie like this, you're taking on the parts of people's lives that were really super intense and powerful for them, and it's an emotional story. It's scary, I mean, I know from making The Coquettes, that to take on that responsibility of telling this group of people's history. What has that been like to deal with this circle of people, knowing that you have an obligation to get it right for them?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that's also probably a question for Mink, but when I talked to John Waters first, I wouldn't have even tried to make this if John didn't give me his blessing, and he not only gave me his blessing to go ahead and try to get the movie made, but he called everyone personally that I wanted to interview and said, if Jeffrey calls you, you should do this movie. And I know that he talked to Mink about
He
the
did
movie
talk
too.
to me, and that's exactly what he said. He said, I think you'll talk to Jeffrey, and he's going to do a good job, so go for it.
We were in Baltimore just this past week, and John was there, Mink was there, Sulo was there,
Pat Moran.
Vincent Perenio. I mean, they were all there in the row, and it's the first time they'd all really seen it. Mink had seen it before, but
I had seen it, but it was the first time we'd seen it together.
yeah, so it was really emotional for me watching them all together, experiencing this all together for the first time, because it's their story too up there. So yeah, I hope that they think that we got it right.
The comment that John made afterwards was he spoke for all of us, and he said, Jeffrey, we think you did a lovely job, and we thank you very much. And we do really feel that way. I mean, Pat Moran and I looked at each other and went, that was a kick in the gut. Because it really, that is, I mean, this is a story about Divine, but Divine was part of us, and we were part of Divine, and so this is a story about all of us, and we never believed for a minute when we started this out back in the 60s that anything like this would ever come of it. So it's been quite an adventure for all of us, and we're very. When I saw it in Boston, I'm not crying tonight because I've seen it several times. I could, but when I saw it in Boston, when I saw it for the first time, I was a wreck. I was sitting in the back row with makeup all over my face and tears. So
she still looks great.
But if John ever makes another movie, we better have him in it. We don't know. I make movies with other people. Well, I mean, this isn't really about me. This is about Jeffrey and the movie.
She was in Eating Out 2 Sloppy Seconds.
And 4, 3, 4, 5. But I'm a cheerleader. I play the mother of the gay a lot.
Mink, I want to have a question for you. Why do you think so many people gravitate toward you and adore you? Aside from the work in the film.
Because I'm just fabulous.
Aside from the work in the film. We all love the performance, we love the movies, but do you have any theories of why people gravitate to you? Why do they feel close to you without ever having met you?
Well, I think part of it, and I have to tell you that it's humbling and gratifying that so many of you do respond to me like that. It overwhelms me sometimes.
Because you're real.
Well, thank you. But it's that unwittingly, I was a part of something that changed the history of gay culture and of the outsider culture. None of us intended that. We didn't start doing this to be role models. We, like Divine says in the movie, we were just doing it for us and to stay out of trouble. And so, I mean, it's the idea that you people, that all of the people in this room care about something that I did 40 years ago is really kind of amazing. So I appreciate it enormously. I can't thank you all enough for it.
Anyone have any questions? Yeah, Jim.
What is your fondest memory of you and Divine?
Well, everything that we did on Female Trouble was fun. Just everything that we did on Female Trouble was a lot of fun. Actually, the very first time I met Divine and talked about taking acid, I'm not 100% sure, because the memories are vague. But I think the very first time that I met Divine, I was on acid. And I think he was dressed in a bedsheet and kissing that little dog that he was carrying.
And singing Dionne Warwick songs, right?
And singing Dionne Warwick songs. Say what? I will you?
Yeah, sure. It'll decrease the value of my side.
Is guitar a euphemism, or do you really mean a guitar?
It's not a metaphor for anything. Really guitar.
It's really a guitar.
Shout it out, shout it out.
Difficult. I'm sorry, start the question over. I don't know, but when I met my first gay people, then all my friends were gay. So the community that I was involved in thought we were great.
It was very mixed, though, right? I mean, there was all kinds of people together.
We weren't all gay. I mean, some of us were gay, and most of the guys were gay. Not all of them, but most of the guys were gay. But I mean, I was unaware of any gay community to be accepted or rejected by, to to tell you the truth. We were just hanging out.
Jeffrey, let me ask you, and then Mink, I'd like you to talk about this. Just tell us a little bit about Divine's mom. I mean, she's such an incredible character in the film, and it's such a touching piece of the way you tell the story.
The second phone call, after talking to John, the second phone call was to Frances, who, as you know, has since passed away, unfortunately. But she was living in Florida, and she lost Divine. He was only 42 when he died, so she went many years without her son. But she was embraced by the gay community in Florida, in Margate, Florida, where she lived. So she had all these 40-something-year-old gay guys just hanging out with her and catering to her every need and making her every day like a happy day. And she would go to gay bars, and she would judge Divine lookalike contests, and she did the Gay Pride parade. She was a Grand Marshal with Bruce Valanche. That must have been fun. And she was happy. So, you know, when she passed away, like literally on her deathbed, it's sad talking about it, but on her deathbed, she had all these guys around her singing to her and like making. It's just, you know, she lost Divine, but she knew that the whole world had him now. You know, she was angry and bitter after he died. Like, why did I have to lose him? You know, why couldn't I have gone first? But then after time went on, she realized the impact that he had. And she even said, it's not in the film, but she said, I just thought he was somebody nobody liked, you know? And she really realized that that would change the world.
I knew Frances, but I met Frances when Divine was still living at home with his parents. And I met her, and then I spent time with her again in Florida. I spent some time with her. And there was a movie made about her called Frances.
She did everything they possibly could to help Glenn at the time find the directions. It's not in the film, but they opened a beauty shop for him. They sent him to beauty school. They opened a beauty shop for him that he was always late for, you know. And they opened an antique shop for him, like a thrift shop for him, and they drove around the country like buying antiques so they could stock the store for him, you know. And he was just too much to handle at that time, so that they had to have that separation for that amount of time until they could come back, as you see in the film. And that's all true, very genuine.
It was very emotional for Divine when he reconnected with his mother, and it was when he took her to the Hairspray premiere, you see in the movie, and that was the first time she had ever seen him being adulated, she saw him on the screen, and she saw the audience love him, and she saw people loving him, and he got the applause, and that was when it dawned on her that her unhappy little unliked child had grown up into something that was important. She didn't understand the full impact of how important he was. I don't think any of us understood the full impact of how important he was until many years later, until many years after he died. And now, even now, you can go to his, to the cemetery where he's buried in Towson, just outside of Baltimore, for those of you that don't know. And there are tributes. Every time I have been there, there is some form of tribute that has been left by somebody on his gravestone.
Usually
a lipstick, a donut, a lipstick, a photograph, a flower, but something has been left. The unfortunate thing is sometimes people actually write on the gravestone with lipstick or magic marker. We don't like that.
Done with love, though.
Yeah, but it's still.
Don't do that. When you go, and you will.
When you go, don't. When you go, and you will. Do not do that.
You have love there now, don't you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, John Waters has 2 because he likes his space. Pat Moran has 1, and her husband has 1. Dennis Dermody, the guy with the long blonde hair, and I will all be buried very close by. So you can make a grand pilgrimage to Disgraceland. Oh, me?
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. I just talk. I don't really write that much. I sing. I have a CD coming out in a couple of weeks, so. It's called Do Re Mink, and it will be available on iTunes.
It's really good. I just heard it. It's really good. She sings female trouble.
I do. I do a version of female trouble. guys, but most of us do, so that's not particularly unusual. The only one of his lovers that I actually really knew was Lee, and I didn't know him all that well. Divine kept his love life kind of private.
But Pat said he had one in every port, as you saw in the movie, so he got around. I wonder if he had one in Portland. Possible.
Are you here?
Divine's boy toy? Are you in the audience?
Show yourself now.
You have a guitar? Is that, any, over here we have a question.
Well, you could go to a museum called the
American Visionary Art Museum.
Yeah, there's a giant statue, 20 feet tall statue of Divine that Andrew Logan did. There's not a museum, but there should be. There should be a museum.
Maybe one day, you know.
What would the items that would be? His merkin would be there.
His wig collection.
Wig collection. They're scattered all over the globe.
I would love to know where all of his outfits are, because that would be a museum.
Years ago, someone said that Divine had 40 pounds of lentils.
Yeah.
In his rear.
Or birdseed. Yeah, he used birdseed a lot.
Early on, I think early on in the Coquettes years, maybe.
They might, I don't know, they were lentils or birdseed, but they were heavy because they had to look real. And thank God I don't have them, but some women really do have those backbreakers that they have to lug around, and that's what Divine had to do.
I think he got rid of the lentils at a certain point. He got a foam chest. And that was better for the back.
For the back.
You need those tips.
So question back there?
It was mentioned that when the camera stopped rolling that he wanted to get that shit off. Do you think he would continue to do drag if it wasn't part of work?
No, he did not. He did not live as a woman, he lived as a man. He lived as an androgyne, because he didn't really dress as a woman, but he wore the earrings. You know, he didn't wear makeup, but there was, you know, definitely a sort of, what is it, quality about him when you saw him on the street.
He wore like beautiful, like long gowns and muumuus
Caftans.
and caftans.
Right.
So he had a feminine aspect to him even when he was Glenn, or he was not.
We never called him Glenn, but when he was you know,
What did you call him?
Divvy, mostly.
Yes.
I would bleach it, as I did my regular hair. You know, I bleached it white, and then David Lockbury had figured out how to do it. I put red ink in shampoo and colored it with red ink. Yeah. It was
The question is
to get off
about
my
the pubic
skin,
hair, how she dyed her pubic hair.
Yes.
That's devotion.
Yes.
I
It
was
had to
really
match.
into
It had to look real.
Good question. Wait a minute.
Hi, this question is for Jason. What was the thing that most surprised you about Divine as you were making this movie?
The one story that I didn't know, the Leo Ford, the porn star, I didn't know about. That was a good little tidbit. But the Diana Evans story, his high school girlfriend.
I didn't even know about Diane.
That was. I knew she existed, but I didn't know that whole like the prom thing, and that Divine was doing her hair and the makeup and all that, and that whole story of how he kind of disappeared from her life. I found that very touching, and that was really generous of Diana to tell that story. She's just a regular person, you know, in Baltimore, and she had this very special time in her life, and I think she kind of still holds a torch for Divine, because she's been married several times since then, and no man could ever measure up to Divine. She's at our Baltimore screening too. That was really wonderful to see her there.
Yeah, she's actually a really, really nice gal.
Whatever became of Divine's father, talk about his reconciliation with his mother. Did that relationship ever fall again with his father?
The question is about Divine's father.
He was Harris was his name, and he was more in the background, but he was a kind of a strong, quiet force. It was really Francis was definitely more in the forefront, but he was as supportive of Divine when he was little as Francis was. You know, he knew that just as she did, that even though they knew he was different, they were still going to love him. And that they were religious, and they believed in God, and they believed that God sent Glenn to them to love and accept him. So and then he outlived Divine too. Yeah. So he passed away. He had MS.
And muscular dystrophy, I think.
Yeah. Yes. But I didn't know a ton about him, and I wish I'd got to meet him and talk to him.
Back there?
In the movie, there was a good bit of, well, a little bit of footage of some of the plays that we did and some of the other, like the music videos and stuff like that. How much of that stuff exists, and is there any chance that any of that's going to get released DVD or anything like that? It's really interesting to see the plays that we did. I had no idea it was done.
Yeah. There's not like a recording. Well, there's some bootlegs floating around of Women Behind Bars that I've seen. Really not that great bootlegs, but you kind of had to be there, I think, to see Women Behind Bars and Neon Woman. But no, there's not like a good. We found clips from those things. It was just an archaeological dig finding materials. I found like there's one shot of him pushing a shopping cart around on stage. That's from a play called The Heartbreak of Psoriasis. That friend of mine just found his uncle and shot it, and it was just sitting in his closet for 20 years, and this stuff just shows up. But it was I think we found almost everything that exists on Divine, and figured out a way to use it in the film. I wish there was more film of the shows that he did with Mink and the shows that the Cockheads did.
When somebody that you think is, when a play comes up that you think might be interesting, don't wait, go. Because when a play is over, it's over. It's gone.
Speaking of which, are you doing some theater now?
I am. I'm going to be doing a Tennessee Williams play called The Mutilated in the Provincetown Tennessee Williams Festival later in late September, and we will have a short run in New York in November, and then I'm doing a show with I'm doing a CD launch show with my band at the end of the month. There's one more question.
You look fabulous.
Thank you.
That there's underground music, comics, there was Hunter Thompson, there was the Cockettes, or were you just doing your thing with friends?
We were just doing our thing. John may have been John was more heavily influenced and more in touch with other reality, with other people, and with culture that was going on. I was just having a good time. So we cared about what we looked like, but we were very definitely not hippies. It was the time of the hippies, but we very definitely did not identify with hippies. We were counterculture. We were definitely Democrats, but we were not. But none of us walked around, holding flowers or looking nice.
So thank you all. We're all going to be going next door to the backstage. So come and have drinks over there and join us and chat. And thank you all so much for coming.